is the world's most powerful global computing environment. He's also the author of a new kind of science, and has long been a pioneer of physics and computing. His early scientific work in high-energy physics, quantum field theory, and cosmology includes several now classic results produced at Caltech and Princeton. He has also served as a professor of physics, mathematics, and computer science at the University of Illinois, and today the mysterious title of his talk is Future, Computation, and Hell. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, well, so I want to talk a little bit about the project of kind of injecting computation into everything, incling things related to healthcare and biomedicine. And I've been building for the last 30 years or so this kind of technology stack that is now mostly about what we call Wolfram language. It's had various other pieces. Mathematica is one of them. Mathematica is really widely used now in the R&D sector, and like 90% of universities in the US now have site licenses for it, for example. It's been something that we've seen used initially in the physical and mathematical sciences, but increasingly also in the biological life sciences. Another sort of big piece of our story is Wolfram Alpha. Wolfram Alpha is a kind of drive-by, answer questions about things system where you can that gets used on the web by lots of people, students, professionals, others, and through things like the Siri Intelligent Assistant. It's the thing that provides the knowledge for Siri, for example. And you can say, I don't know, you could say something very basic like, what's the population of Boston, and you get a result. And the idea is to be able to ask questions. This is the connection to the web. There we go. So it'll try and tell us sort of interesting things based on the question that we asked. Let's say divided by, let's say Cambridge, and that should again understand the question and be able to give us answers. So let's say we now say something a little bit, let's say something more healthcare. Let's say LDL. Gosh, no, here's where I lose my. I don't know enough about this kind of stuff. So let's say male, age 40 or something. So now this will go and look at some NIH study and try to translate it, and maybe it's 1,000 more range. Somebody tell me what the more range was. Well, yeah, let me just say. Let's just try this. So this should. There we go. Okay, so this is now slicing things by what we just asked and giving us distribution and so on. And so the idea is we're asking natural language questions and getting out answers that the system thinks we find interesting. We have a fair amount of medical and health data in here that you can kind of ask about in a natural language kind of way. If I just type in something like that, it should be able to go and look that up on the genome and tell me where some matches are, where I could go and ask it about it. So it's still crunching away there. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it'll give me various matches here. I can go and dig in and ask about these particular genes, and I can do various natural language queries about this and so on. And kind of the idea is natural language goes in, computation happens on the inside, and generates kind of reports on the outside. And this Wolfram Alpha technology stack. The public version works against public data. There are also private versions that work against private data, and we built a whole bunch of custom Wolfram Alphas for all sorts of organizations that include pharma companies, healthcare organizations, things like that. There's actually one very large consumer rollout of this that's coming in the next few months that's making use of natural language of the Wolfram Alpha technology stack that's in the healthcare space. So anyway, this is kind of the consumer drive-by version of this technology. The thing that we've been building to for a long time is the kind of internal language that allows both humans and computers to sort of talk a common language about computing things. And so this is what we call Wolfram language, and the idea is to have a language that can talk about all kinds of different things. So it can talk about, let's say we have a network. I could import my Facebook graph if I wanted to. That would be easy to do. Or I could just say, give me a network. Okay, here's a network. Now let's say make the graph of communities in this network so that we'll get the results. We could just do computations on these kinds of things. And we could, if this was a piece of data from, let's say, Facebook, we could be easily looking at people's social graphs and watching how they evolve with time and doing all kinds of computations with them. We could also, for example, let's pick up an image here. We can do computation with that as well. So the current image here. So there we go. So now we can take that image and we can do computations with it. This could be an image that we get through a microscope or something. We actually have other good support for all sorts of things for microscopy and other places. We can do, we can take this image. We could, for example, let's just to show, give some idea of how this works. We can partition that image into pieces. We could then say, let's say, sort each row of that by color within this network and so on. So we can just, but more interestingly, we can go and do all sorts of analysis of this. So for instance, one big area that we've been working a lot on is, well, let's do what we can let's get, for example, let's make a 3D image from something here. So let's take this, we can kind of see a little bit about how this language works. It's a symbolic language, so we can talk about anything. So if we just talk about X, it's just X. If we talk about, I don't know, something like an antelope or something, we can perfectly well say, an antelope is just a thing here. We could ask for properties of an antelope, like we could say, just give us an image of one of those things, and it should give us, hopefully, a picture of an antelope there. And now we could say, let's just make something where we can, let's do this. Let's go ahead and make successive edge detections of that image, for example. So let's do this. So then we get now we could say, for example, let's try and make a 3D image out of there's something interesting here. Okay, so that stacked up those images and made a 3D image. And we can do all sorts of image processing in 3D, and you can do all kinds of fancy radiology kinds of things with language in a very nice, clean way. And you can import DICOM data and all those sorts of good things. And it looks very beautifully. So another kind of thing. So kind of one of the sort of big ideas of the language is to automate as much as possible, to build in as much knowledge as possible about how to compute things and also data about the world at large. So I was showing you some data about some anatomical data that is kind of nice, that you can actually do reasoning about anatomical kinds of things with geometry and so on. Another quite different area is machine learning, and we've been sort of leaders in that business. And if we take, let's guess, I'm taking antelopes today, but let's just take a picture of, let's just pick some picture off the web. Something like this, that picture, let's try, the picture here, okay, there's a picture, and now we can just say, image identify that picture, and hopefully this doesn't fail. Okay, there we go, great. So it says that's a gazelle. And so this is sort of remarkable that it's possible to do this. We can do this for about 10,000 common kinds of things. We started training it also on microscopy data, the pathology and so on. This looks like it will work really well, and you'll be able to do the same kind of thing, just using image identify, some picture, and it will tell you what it is. You can go and see more detail if you want to, and I could go and ask it to show us. I could say, image identify this, let's say all categories of things, 10 of them, let's ask it the probability for those, and now it should be giving us all sorts of different possible interpretations with different probabilities. So anyway, let's see, other things for example. So one of the important things about this language and environment is that it starts to be easy enough to use that really a broad range of people can actually write code. In the past, there's sort of been this bright line between the programmers and the people who were sort of thinking about thinking about what should be programmed. We kind of broke down that barrier 27 years ago now for physical science type people. But as of 28 years ago, before Mathematica came out, if you ask the typical physicist, like theoretical physicist, do you write programs to do things? They say, no, I don't write programs. I get some graduate students to do it. I get a programmer to do it, something like that. It is now the case that basically any self-respecting theoretical physicist can write Mathematica code to do things themselves. That hasn't happened yet in life sciences. I think we're now at the point where it can happen. In fact, we've been pretty involved in helping to have sort of programming education work well. We can now really teach about computational thinking rather than about sort of raw programming. And some of the things that we've been doing, we have a thing, for example, by the way, I should say that this language, you can use it on the desktop, you can also use it on the web. And in fact, there's even a free version of it that you can play with on the web. This is a thing called World Programming Lab, which is intended for kids and other people who've never programmed before, including lots of life science people. This particular implementation is more aimed at, the capabilities are all the same, but the examples are more aimed at high school students than at life sciences people. But this is an environment where you can just do your computations directly on the web and a web browser. So let me give you an example of what people are doing with that. Pull this up. So an example, there's a company called Emerald that has been building a lab in the cloud based on this technology. And so the idea is there's an outfit, there's a place that's a lot beautiful actually in South San Francisco. There's a big kind of factory-like place that has a bunch of all your favorite biology and chemistry experiments that have been successfully automated. There's still some humans around there with iPads and so on, but mostly these devices have been set up so that they can get commands automatically and dump their data automatically. And so the way this works is you write a script in Morphin language to specify what experiments you want done, whether you want flow cytometry and some kind of chromatography thing, so on and so on and so on. They've now automated a large fraction. I think it was up to they have sort of a small board of biology experiments and chemistry experiments, and one of them is 8%, the other is 90% right now. I'm not sure which is which. But the idea is that it's sort of that you're able to simply write a script for what you want to have done, send your sample to them, script, and then the sort of robots and a few humans swing into action and execute the experiment, and then dump the results back into the Wolfram Cloud for analysis. And you can actually, what's kind of nice is that you can run both a real experiment and a simulation in the same environment. So if you can simulate, if you do have a model that's successfully predicting what's going on, you can do that. So this is an example of the kind of thing one can do with our language, and I think the hope is that a lot of people who, once you start scripting your experiments, and it's important to script experiments because then you write a paper and you can just attach a script which gives the procedure to use in this cloud lab. And so the point is that then when you start being able to do that, there starts being real motivation for a little bit of how to write code to analyze these kinds of things and so on. There's a lot. I'm probably way out of time, so but in any case, there's lots of things to say about how one can use this kind of technology. What's nice is that when you make programming easy enough, and when you make access to data easy enough, you can try things where you're not certain it's going to work. You just are exploring things. And that's kind of the story of a lot of basic science that I've done, is you make the tools easy enough to use, so then you can just do exploratory analysis of things. And I can show you, there's a thing we call Bulletin Data Drop, which is a way of basically dropping data into our cloud from a whole variety of different sources, and particularly from IoT devices and medical devices. We have lots of connections to devices so that you can take those various pedometers and heart rate monitors, all these kinds of things, and get the data into, it might be my hard disk folder here somewhere in one of these data bins. But let's take this one as an example. And so once you've got, this is now just an easy way to have data be in our cloud, and then you can go ahead and do all sorts of analysis on it and computation. This is just a little sensor board that's sitting on my desk, and that's showing the temperature as a function of time for it, and all those kinds of things. But this could as well be the healthcare data, and we can now just do immediate analysis on these kinds of things directly in the language. And we can use this language also. Another important thing is that we can build APIs and mobile apps and so on directly from the language in a very straightforward way. So I think the main thing that's happening here, interesting, is it has the indication that people in life sciences, programming is often done by some other group, some special set of people. So there will come a time when a large practice, just like happened in physical science a century ago, there will come a time when the typical actual practitioner of life sciences things will be able to write code. And the code may not be terribly complicated. It may be things like make a dateless plot of a data bin or something, but it will gradually grow from that and become significantly more complicated. And to be able to actually make use of all of the kinds of methods and techniques of analysis and so on that people are starting to understand, but now you can actually with your own hands kind of execute those things. And I think it's a great way to get things discovered. It certainly worked really well in the physical sciences over the last quarter century and so on. I think it can work also in the life sciences. We've been involved in building a happen. There's a little book I wrote, for example, that's about learning for people who this book again is somebody needs to write the completely the life sciences version of this, but this is for general people. Kind of an elementary introduction to language that kind of goes from nothing and with no knowledge of programming to being able to do those specific things. Okay, I should stop there. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Aaron. My name is Dan Carr. I direct the program on pain research, education, and policy. And while I have a personal lab interest going back some years in the design of novel molecules and about 2 dozen patents, I'm not going to be focusing on that. What I'm going to be focusing upon is the assignment, if you will, that I was given by Darren to look at the future of pain medicine. And I'm going to do that by pivoting off what I see as established and emerging trends, namely what treatments will be provided, how these be organized, who will provide and receive pain care, and if we can have a few moments to develop this notion of trying to reframe the phenomenon of pain from the traditional classical micro-scale view that then gives rise to events at a higher and higher scale, as we say bottom up, to a different view, which I would turn a top-down view. There are references that will be in the slides. So the inner world of pain, for those of you who don't work in this area, here are 3 key concepts. The first is that chronic pain is a disease per se, and you can take this point of view for many other conditions. In other words, there are many things that could cause heart failure, but at the end of the day, it's more important to understand that people have heart failure and to treat that than to know what was the specific etiology, especially if you're looking at end-stage changes, same thing for end-stage renal disease, same for pulmonary disease. So what is the common shared pathophysiology of chronic pain? The common shared pathophysiology is that there's been a hijacking of the amplification and sensitization mechanisms in the nervous system. And this can be triggered by acute pain that will sometimes go on to become chronic. Unfortunately, compared with the other conditions like oncology or infectious disease, there's still a lagging evidence base. Another key concept is that access to assessment and management of pain is a fundamental human right. This is often misunderstood and misinterpreted. When my colleagues were arguing this concept and how it's manifest, we didn't say zero pain. We meant an attempt to an appropriate level of resources to deal with people's pain. Finally, the emerging third key concept is that pain is a public health problem. So from a public health point of view, one describes the disease as an interaction between pathology, host, and environment. We are coming to view pain that way and recognizing that factors that used to be in the public health purview, like disparities, inequities, and social justice, really have a lot of relevance to pain, as does the concept of primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. And if time permits, I'll refer to some recent publications. Every 2 years, there's a World Congress on Pain, and they take the best editorial and best led things and put out a special review. So I chose this as an example. I know the author, and I think he's trying to be provocative, but I think to call his article, The Fundamental Unit of Pain is the Cell, shows an extreme kind of bottom-up view. We think of pain as an experience, as an unpleasant experience that has both sensory and emotional aspects. It's hard to see that one cell, or even a handful of cells, could do that. On the other hand, that's a very valuable view, because it enables us to think about druggable targets. And if you simply did a calculation of how many potential druggable targets could there be based on the size of an individual's genome? There would probably be about low single-digit thousands of druggable targets. So we are already using some of these druggable targets and developing better medications. Some of these target ion channels, some target specific pathophysiologies or mediators or growth factors or cannabinoid receptors and so on. So what we're witnessing in the pain area is that there's an emerging paradigm going on. If you think about, let's say, antibiotics, well, at some earlier level, we heard about this in some of the earlier talks today, people could recognize a mold that has some antibacterial qualities. The active ingredient was identified, and then it was modified, and then other classes of antimicrobials were developed. Same thing with anti-inflammatory. Folk remedies like Willobark were recognized to be active because of salicin, which in turn was synthesized chemically into aspirin. And now we recognize there are different targets of these anti-inflammatory drugs. Same thing with opioids. Opiates have been around for thousands of years in medicinal use, and as our knowledge of the structural chemistry became more refined, it became more and more modified, and now because of the epidemic of opioid use, there are tamper-resistant formulations. So what's going on here? We're recognizing that just as with infection or inflammation, we recognize that pain is really a set of diverse conditions in diverse hosts. And I think one element of the future will be what we might term combination chemotherapy, except for pain, so we call it combination analgesic chemotherapy. In the future, we will embrace diversity instead of being bothered by diversity. We will not try to have homogeneous solutions for everyone. We will probably give multifunctional molecules or a group of molecules with a single function each together in a multimodal way. And we'll do a better job at tailoring our agents to mechanisms of the disease and host. For example, the features clinically of pain are different if it arises from a normal nervous system detecting impending tissue damage as from damage to the nervous system itself. Also, like you asked, where are we? You'll notice I left numbers out of the X and Y axes. We believe that with any progression curve, we have standard sigmoid and a Rogers curve of the diffusion of innovation. I think a lot of people view us as at point A in the sense that we're at the beginning of some wonderful journey. I would present a counter-argument for point B because over human history, everything that was available in the environment has been chewed, smeared, swallowed, smoked, etc. in efforts to reduce pain. So I think that there actually has been a wide throughput screening. It's just been erratic and not coordinated. Therefore, many things get lost in translation. Even if we have a good treatment, if you think about this treatment of pain on a systems level, and this is just a hypothetical, just from a diabetes journal. It's an example of a hypothetical where, let's say, there's a 40% applicability from one step to the other. Even if there's some wonderful randomized controlled trial that really presents tremendously plausible and credible evidence, it may turn out that because of the selection criteria, there's only a subpopulation of responders that's relevant for it. That's certainly true of infectious disease or oncology. Then if you try to implement this in the real world, the clinic participation rate, let's give that another 40%, further decreases the effect. Even if a clinic participates, not every clinician will. And even if a clinician participates, their patients won't all participate. And if they do, they won't adhere in the long term. So you can see how the dilution, assuming a 40% impact per step, reduces these things. Individual responses here. This is one of the biggest themes of current-day pain research. This ranges from single nucleotide polymorphisms, producing conditions that range from congenital sensitivity of pain to addicted and desaturated so-called hyperalgesia to painful stimuli. Epigenetics are also very important in modifying the expression of genes. And of course, gender, prior sensitization, psychosocial issues, clinician-patient interaction. At this point, we can predict the future because the trend is already underway to produce safe and effective pain relief, certainly in the acute pain setting. By combining different molecules that have different targets, this allows a greater margin of safety for each molecule by the reduction of the necessary dose. For example, you can reduce the morphine dose required postoperatively by concomitantly giving an anti-inflammatory or a drug that blocks the hyperalgesia of pain, named ketamine. What we can find is that even when individuals are given different members of the same family, like different opioids within the larger family of opioids, individuals may respond differently, and that's a strategy for dealing with their pain. We are also seeing many more people come to the OR with established opioid dosing regimens, and this necessitates a bump up in their opioids if they're to maintain any degree of pain relief. So I've made these cartoon hypothetical diagrams. These are not actual diagrams, but I drew them to make a point. Just as we make advances in the science of pain, our colleagues who are surgeons make advances in how an operation can be done. And if you imagine some hypothetical curve of how much pain intensity does a person have over time, what I'm showing there is if you have a closed or keyhole, non-invasive procedure, let's say to take out a gallbladder or a portion of the colon, you can see that blue dotted line. People will have less pain if there's less tissue injured. But if you have to convert that to an open procedure, because technically you can't do what you want to do through the scope, or if you don't have the scope as an option, suddenly that whole curve of pain distribution shifts. So keep this picture in your mind and make a mental superposition on this picture. Not all drugs have the same potency. We kind of understand that. In other words, we kind of understand that it doesn't matter how much Tylenol you would take if you had your chest cut open and your aorta grabbed in, probably wouldn't be enough no matter what dose you could give. And by the way, you can't give it any dose because it has its own toxicity. So people in this area speak of intrinsic analgesic efficacy, and drugs like an anti-inflammatory like aspirin or Tylenol are sort of that green line. In other words, they can capture the pain and control the pain in people whose pain is very